All right, folks, welcome to another edition of Outspoken. I'm Dan Sileo. We appreciate you being here. Hey, listen, before we get started, we do want to send our condolences out because prior to the Players' Championship today, there was an unfortunate situation that happened there, and play was stopped, and they ended up getting play going again, but we want to send love to the first responders who responded to this situation. Players are back on the course again, and we'll keep you updated on what's going on with that. All right, guys, fire the cannons. All right, guys, without a doubt, another power-packed weekend. It is Selection Sunday. It's World Baseball Classic. Free agency is all over the place when it comes to the National Football League. What a week it's been. And most notably, obviously, one of the predictions, thank you very much, that Big Sills made, was one of the landing spots for Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, the number one prospect when it came to free agent quarterbacks. I said he'd go to Minnesota in the 2 spot there. I thought the Jets would have a better opportunity to sign him because of the money that they do have. But Minnesota is a headless football team right now. And without a doubt, you got to look at where they are. Okay, J.J. McCarthy's a stiff. I said this on draft day when they took him from the University of Michigan, that this guy was never going to be a frontline player. Look at what Minnesota did a year ago. You had Daniel Jones in the building, okay? He was on your scout team. Daniel Jones, the former New York Giant quarterback, was on the scout team. He just signed a 2-year contract extension with the Indianapolis Colts for $44 large for the next 2 years. You had that guy in the building and you just said goodbye. Also, you had Sam Darnold. You said, listen, I know you went 14-3. Well, that's not good enough. We're going to go with J.J. McStiff. And you're going to sit there and put that quarterback in the starting lineup of a football team that's a pretty good roster? What did Sam Darnold do? Obviously, we all know. He went to Seattle, and the guy ended up winning himself a Super Bowl. This was a no-brainer. A tick above $1 million, $1.3 million. And you want to know what a bad organization is? How about the Arizona Cardinals? Hey, they're on the hook for $38 million large. $38 million. What quarterbacks have ever had any kind of success in Arizona? What? Carson Palmer? Maybe Kurt Warner a little bit, right? So you're not really going to have a lot of success. And early in his career, if you looked at it, he's a 2-time Pro Bowler. They won 11 ball games. He had some pretty good stats, and I think he goes up to Minnesota and he wins that job. I mean, look, when you're talking about Minnesota, Minnesota is a great-looking roster. You got Addison, you got Justin Jefferson, you got a good offensive line when healthy. Plus, you also have Brian Flores on the other side, the defensive coordinator of that football team, who I think is one of the top coordinators in all of football. Could Minnesota make a resurgence again and have an opportunity to go and be a contending football team? How about the head coach, too, also coming out and not naming a quarterback that's the starter? This is going to be an open competition up in Minnesota. And here, Kyler Murray, if you can't beat J.J. McStiff out in Minnesota, dude, you're lost. And everything people said about you being 5'9", not really being set up for the NFL, not being big enough for the NFL, is all going to come true. This is your opportunity to go to a place and maybe become the next reclamation project like we see down in Tampa with Baker Mayfield and like we saw with Sam Darnold up in Seattle. This is your last shot to show people that you are a frontline quarterback. Remember, the deal they signed a couple of years ago with him, this guy was making $46.1 million. They thought he was going to be the face of the franchise. Now, I don't know where Arizona goes, but I don't think anybody knows where Arizona goes. That football team has been a dying place for quarterbacks and head coaches for the last 35 years. All right, so Miami of Ohio, I got to say this, they're the worst 31-1 team in the history of the Selection Sunday process. Look at here, man. I know I'm kind of conflicted, and I don't like to be conflicted on this. So UMass takes them down in the MAC tournament, and now they're 31-1. I get it. You won 31 consecutive basketball games. Do you want to hear this? You don't have a top quality 100 win. So you got 31 tomato cans. Are they the worst 31-1 team ever to be thought of to go into the NCAA tournament? Yes. Remember, two things can be true. On the other hand, no team with 29 wins, okay, has ever been left out of the tournament. The debate on whether or not to put them in the tournament, when you look at the 31 stiffs that they beat, yes, is it the worst resume of all time? No doubt about it. It is the worst resume of all time. What does the committee do on Sunday? Is this an at-large team? Look, I make this comment all the time about college football. I think one day we're going to see a 3-loss college football national champion because I do think it matters who you play. Look, Texas versus James Madison, Texas versus what? Tulane? You got to be kidding me. Those weren't the best 2 teams in the country when you were picking the top 12 teams to play for the national championship. Absolutely not. I want to see the best teams. However, what's the NCAA tournament all about? Cinderella. What's the one thing that we love the most when it comes to watching the tournament? Cinderella stories, dude. The last place that you get Cinderella stories is a place like the NCAA tournament. We saw Butler go to the national finals 2 years in a row, a couple years back. Remember? Everyone was awesome. They loved that whole experience. You love seeing teams get to the Final Four that shouldn't be there. And especially with NIL and the transfer portal, again, what makes the NCAA so awesome to watch is the unpredictability that it has for the tournament. That's what makes that thing a must-watch. That's why it's the second best event in all of American sports. Remember, football is king and college sports is queen, whether it's college basketball or it's college football. This is what the NCAA tournament's all about. A little bit conflicted on it. 31-1, yes. Just a boatload of stiffs that they have beaten. However, make no mistake about it, do they belong in the tournament? I think Miami of Ohio is everything what the tournament's all about. All right. So, Luka, boy, you got to love this, man. I think when athletes get an opportunity to make a boatload of money, you know, they start to forget about who they are and where they are and what their responsibilities are. So Luka Doncic from the Lakers here, I love the fact he popped in 51 the other night, but he lives out in Los Angeles now, and now we're starting to get a little bit of Dak, and we're starting to get a little bit of Tom Brady. So he's got a custody battle going on with his girlfriend. She goes back to Slovenia, and he hasn't seen his daughters in a long time. Remember something, when you're a professional athlete, you make a lot of sacrifices, and people don't understand these sacrifices. Look what Tom Brady did. He was 8-9. What did he do? He cashed in his family for an 8-9 Buccaneer season to close out his career. Hey, sometimes it's not about kissing cheerleaders and cashing paychecks. It's about making decisions. Believe me, Luka, being a dad is the biggest team you'll be on when you're looking out for your daughters. He says that without a doubt here, that, you know, one thing I have to do everything I can to make sure that I support my kids. Well, guess what, dude? Just supporting your kid is not going to get it done, okay? And now he hasn't seen his daughters in two years. I love Dak Prescott's game, too. Hey, just as he gets ready, she didn't want to sign a prenup, okay? There's Dak right there, baby. I'm bowing out. How you doing? Hey, man, when you make big money, and I get it, too, man. Look at Tom Brady, one of the most successful men on the planet, right? Hey, you know what? I'm going to cash my family in there, you know, for an 8-9 Buccaneer season on the way out the door. Dude, sometimes you got to find priorities, dude. And I get it. You're on Sunset Boulevard. You're out there hanging out with LeBron. You're out there with Maverick Carter and all the guys having a good time. I get it, man. All good here. All right. Hey, don't forget my great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the #1 injury law firm in all of America. Guys, this is family-run, family-owned. John and Ultima Morgan put this company together over 25 years ago. There is a great story with a family in Florida that was initially offered $350K. They ended up getting nearly $12 million. Or how about this one? A family in Pennsylvania was offered $650K. They ended up getting nearly $26 million in a settlement. Do me a favor. Go to forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That is forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor. You make sure you tell them Big Sales sent you. Speaking of big time, you got it, man. My friend, Coach James Young, we're going to talk some college hoop, and we're going to also talk some NBA basketball with our friend. Man, it is heating up, college hoop. We'll do that next right here on Sports Grid. You know, one of the greatest events we have in America is clearly the NCAA tournament. Man, I love this thing. The king of office pools is this event. Hey, how many people know who Chaminade is? I ask everybody all the time. I mean, who's that? You got Chaminade on your office pool? People are like, I don't even know where a Chaminade is. I go, neither do I, but I have an office pool here. And Coach James Young joins us now here. This is truly one of the greatest events in all of American sports, isn't it? Coming up, the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, obviously, when you talk about this time of year, it's the best time of year in basketball. No disrespect to the NBA, because this is where for 40 minutes, it doesn't matter your record, it doesn't matter the NIL money, it doesn't matter how many McDonald's All-Americans you have, how many national championships the head coach has. All that matters is for 40 minutes, can you be better than the other team? And there's nothing better than that, because you have to play your best. So you got me on Saturday in March. So I'm bringing you my best today, Big Sills.
You got it, man. This guy's the Shaq of the Outspoken show here. So I'm going to ask you, do you agree or disagree with me about Miami of Ohio? They're 31-1. And when you look at the resume, Coach, it's true. They haven't played really anybody in the top 100. I mean, it's like a list of 31 stiffs. However, no team has ever been excluded from the NCAA tournament with 29 or fewer wins like this. I mean, you tell me, do they belong in the tournament?
Well, I'm going to push back on the Shaq thing, because I make my free throws at a higher clip. All right.
There you go.
But listen, when you think about Miami of Ohio, Big Sills, I personally, I don't think they should belong in there. Their strength of schedule and their out of conference strength of schedule are 340s or lower. They have no quad 1 or quad 2 wins. Folks, they played not 1, not 2, but 3 non-division 1 teams. So chances to up their schedule, they did not. So that's why I don't think they should get in, but they will. You know why? It's about an hour from Miami of Ohio to Dayton. So send them to Dayton. You're going to get that's going to immediately bring a lot of support in. It'll become must watch for the first 4. And then you put them up against a Power 4 team that's one of the last 4 in. So there you already get a David versus Goliath matchup, and a team that maybe should not be there versus should. And I want to say this right now, because people are not bringing this up. And I'm gonna be the guy that does it, okay? Because I'm not scared of it. ESPN and a bunch of these networks, especially Joe Lunardi, is really trying to acquiesce themselves to the conferences in which they have agreements with. The SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Big 12. You know who does not have an agreement is the Big East. And that's why you see only 3 teams in the Big East getting in. Talks of Villanova, although they did not play well last game versus Georgia. That Matt Hodge injury has hurt them. Talking to the Villanova people, that stretch 4 redshirt freshmen that had a really good year. But now talking about a team like Seton Hall, that they don't have the wins. They got single-digit losses, 4 of them to UConn and St. John's. They could have easily beat Villanova one of the matchups. You want to play Shaheen Holloway's team in the tournament? You tell me, stop talking about Auburn and Bruce Pearl and his son, because that team got their doors blown off a bunch of times in the SEC. If they put Auburn in over Seton Hall, folks, I got a problem with that.
That is absolutely awesome, because that's been a criticism, Coach, that I've had of game day on Saturdays. You know, when you have an agreement with, the SEC and the ACC, and you have Fox that has an agreement with the Big Ten, you see a lot of that jockeying because of television networks. And television networks right now really are starting to really have a gigantic influence when it comes to who makes these tournaments, like the 12-team tournament in college football and now the NCAA tournament to 68. Let's go to some of these games here. Arizona with a last-second shot beats Iowa State. How big was that for Arizona?
It was great. Jaden Bradley, just fantastic. That little fall away floater, corner jumper at the buzzer. I'm like, where is he going? What did you? Oh, okay, now I got you. I got what you're going. But today will be interesting because they're playing Houston, and Houston, what they did to Bill Self's team yesterday was criminal. So you got to watch this matchup tonight. Now, the one thing I want people to understand is, and they did a good job, actually, at All Places College game, they explaining it just before. Arizona is a great rebounding team, but Houston is not compared to the past. The key tonight, JoJo Tugler, who gets into foul troubles all the time. If he stays out of foul trouble, then I look for Houston to win the game and look at points props for the guards. Use JoJo Tugler as a screener because they play what they call drop coverage. The big man from Arizona is not going to come engage in the ball screen. So look at Kingston Flemings and Emmanuel Sharp. I think they combined to shoot 8 of 28 last time out. They shoot the ball better. They rebound. Houston with an upset in a low-scoring game versus Arizona.
Coach, how shocked were you with UCLA's effort against Michigan State? You know, we talked about, where UCLA was going, but that had to be one of the bigger wins that they've had over the last couple of years, no?
Yeah, and listen, Mick's a fantastic coach. I don't know if he fits the West Coast because, Mick Cronin's an East Coast guy. That's where he got his roots, obviously, at Cincinnati. So, but it was a good win for them. A team that's dangerous because of McBillard, who's a good big man to go inside and out. But Michigan State, they're not Michigan State. They're not what we think they are. It's been smoke and mirrors a lot by, obviously, Tom Izzo. But Michigan State will still be dangerous. I keep telling people, here's how you bet Michigan State. If they clear the first round of the tournament, take Izzo in the second round because you can't get 1 day of practice and be ready for whatever curveball Tom Izzo's about to serve up.
Absolutely. I'm with you. I'm a Big East guy, Coach. I mean, I love seeing those old school Big East teams in the second round of the tournament. I'm watching Georgetown. I'm watching UConn. I watched all that old school stuff. I'm with you. I go back to the Gavin days when they were putting that tournament together, and I am 1,000% behind you, man. I love that style of play, and I do think that ESPN jobs the Big East, and I can't wait to see what UConn does in the NCAA tournament. We're going to switch gears, and we're going to go up to the big fellas. And I called him Shaq. He didn't like it, so maybe we have to go Jabbar. All right, we're going to talk more with Coach James Young about the NBA next right here on Sports Grid. Okay, so like when I was a kid, I used to go to MSG for all kinds of stuff. I used to go for circuses. I used to go for wrestling to see Bruno Sammartino wrestle back in the day in the old WWF. But you want to know WWF, you want to know circus, and you want to know concert. If you've never been to a Big East championship and you got Biggie over the loudspeakers going, Coach, is there anything like it? Especially when St. John's is good, man. I mean, that place just erupts, man. That's just a great place and a great environment. MSG for the Big East tournament.
You know, it's funny. I know we got to talk NBA, Big Sills, but when they announced that starting lineup and you hear that, you hear that beat, that hypnotize, and it gets you goosebumps. So I'm imploring all of Big Sills' audience, everybody listens to coaching, everybody, all the people that come on, you follow all of us that are on social media. I'm telling you right now, your bucket list for basketball is get to what we call adult spring break. Get your behind the MSG. Back in the day, you remember Sills used to get the tickets where you'd be in a big strip, and you would just tear it off. Get yourself a block of tickets and get yourself to MSG, because tonight will be cinema between Rick Pitino and Dan Hurley.
Man, I can't wait here. All right, so we're going to bounce it up to the big fellas here. An unethical 83 is what I'm hearing with Bam. Come on, dude. I mean, listen, you telling me that Kobe, if Kobe's at 70, he's not going for it? Hey, how about the Washington Generals? Oh, wait a minute. The Washington Wizards, I guess. How about you playing some defense? I mean, give me your takeaway on what you saw with Bam getting that 83 points. Again, listen, nobody was calling it Kobe's 81. But, Coach, I mean, look, play some defense, dude.
I'll give you one better, Big Sills. How about play some defense without fouling? I mean, guys shot 40-some-odd free throws in the game. And Washington Generals, Washington Wizards, man, they should just go back and become the Bullets. Because ever since they became the Wizards, they're like a magical spell that you want them to disappear. That's how bad they've been in Washington. So to me, listen, at the end of the day, we're going to get the people and knock it. 83 points, still a fantastic accomplishment. I think it's because it's Bam. It wasn't Steph. It wasn't Anthony Edwards. It wasn't these guys, Luka Doncic. It's not these guys that are 30-point-a-game guys. It was Bam Adebayo that did it. And that's why I think it is the way it is. But at the end of the day, shame on the Washington Wizards. It took two to tango, and one did not show up to the dance, and that's the Wizards.
That's right. I mean, they're going like that wasn't real basketball. No, you're right. You haven't been a real basketball organization since you left the Bullets name. I mean, no Elvin Hayes says, I'm going to use a Rick Pitino. Elvin Hayes ain't running through that tunnel. That's for dang sure here. You just mentioned Luka Doncic. He just goes for 51 the other night. Are the Lakers starting to do anything here? I mean, LeBron comes back. He's been banged up a little bit over the last couple months, obviously for a guy over 40 years of age. But where are the Lakers right now, in your opinion?
Listen, they are right now tied with the 3 seed with the Rockets, which is fantastic. For me, Big Sales, it's going to be about styles make fights. Last year, they played the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first round. I thought everybody Minnesota was going to run over them. They absolutely did. They got to be careful. If they're right now, the 5 seed is Denver. Who are you taking in a 7-game series? You taking the Lakers or are you taking, obviously, the Nuggets? I know who I'm taking. Number 6 is Minnesota. Who are you taking? The Lakers? You're taking Minnesota. I'm taking Minnesota. They got to hope that Phoenix or one of these teams jumps up or they slide down, because at the end of the day, I don't trust DeAndre Ayton as much as I love him, and I don't think they shoot the ball well enough from 3, and they don't defend enough that I think that they can win a 7-game series regardless how great Luka Doncic is.
How good do you think the Cavs are?
The Cavs are going to be judged by their playoff lack of success in the past. Not Kenny Atkinson, but particularly the players. I'm not a big fan of that double-barrel big man of Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, but to me, it's the beard. You know that out of Philadelphia, James Harden, who turned into a pumpkin in Game 7. Can he exercise his demons? Same thing with, obviously, Donovan Mitchell. Can the Knicks exercise their demons? Can Jamie Bickerstaff of Detroit exercise their demons? It's going to be fun to watch the East, because you can make a case for all of them, and you can make a case that all of them can flounder it up at the end of the day.
Hey, 20 seconds. I'm looking at the Magic. Are they making any kind of noise here at all? Or can they do anything? I mean, they're playing some pretty good basketball as of late. Or is this just a blimp?
No, I was big on the Magic before the season started. It was all about getting them healthy with Banchero and Wagner. They play elite defense and defend at a high level. Desmond Bane's got to continue to shoot the ball from three because that's been their Achilles heel. They're one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league. They must shoot it well from three, but they can be dangerous in the right matchup.
Man, I'm with you here. By the way, you got me thinking about the Big East right now, man. I mean, I can't wait to watch that bad puppy, man. Like you said, too, you know, you got Biggie coming across the loudspeakers. If you've ever been to that, you know what we're talking about here. I don't think there's a college basketball conference championship setting that's better than MSG. I don't care down at Tobacco Road. There's nothing like it. Coach, we will catch you next week. Thank you so much. One of the legendary coaches of all time will join us as well. Barry Switzer next, right here on Sports Grid. You know, truly one of the greatest coaches of all time in the history of college football. He's one of the very few men that owns a national championship ring, and he also owns a Super Bowl ring. But everyone knows Coach Switzer from OU and all the great things that he did there in Norman. He joins us right now. And, Coach, I want to start by saying, first and foremost, thank you so much for coming aboard here. But, man, I got to tell you, do you like the landscape right now of college football and where it is with nil and with the transfer portal? Do you like it right now?
Hell no, I don't. I'm like Nick Saban. I wouldn't be a part of this today. I look at it this way. You know, they need to do something. They need to do it in a damn hurry. I understand the president got involved. They called the commission. Congress needs to get involved. They need to get a center that we can live by that allow us to save this game. And we're not going to be able to do it unless they do that. When we drafted Dan, when you went into the league, you were with that team at least 3 years before you became a free agent. These kids jump around all the time now. Remember when the NCAA used to be cap and gown? They talk about academics, getting an education. I have no one ever mentioned one word about eligibility anymore. These guys going to the portal, what's your eligibility? No one ever asked that. And it's a damnedest thing. Everybody goes to school online. You don't know who's doing the work for them online. Yeah, it's just become a farce. Plus the fact that Oklahoma is a school that sits in a state of 3.5 million people. You think Texas, 5 million people, can raise more money, A&M in Texas, than Oklahoma? Hell yeah, they can. And if it's going to come down to that, who can raise the most money and have the most money, then we're not going to be able to compete. A lot of schools aren't going to be able to compete. It amazes me that certain schools are still able to compete because they face the same situations we do.
Hey, Coach, do you think college football needs a commissioner type and they need to get rid of the NCAA? Do you think there has to be one central head? Or do you think, again, the NCAA still has a place in college sports?
What does the NCAA do for them?
Nothing.
I thought that's what I say. The NCAA means nothing anymore. And then remember, the NCAA tell us we're going to play 2 games a year, and we maybe regional TV every once in a while. We sued them in 1981, the University of Oklahoma in Georgia, and we all went all the way to the Supreme Court, and we won it. And we were able then to have Division 1, 2, and 3 be able to negotiate their own TV contracts. In other words, we could play on TV every week and negotiate with our own networks and divide it among the schools what the league got, and it was so much better than what the NCAA had. But the NCAA, that was back when Walter Byers controlled it, and we were all kind of strangled at that time, so we had to go on with what they said. I don't even know why you even need a investigative body with the NCAA anymore, because when you're giving money and NIL, all these kids, hell, it's just NIL means now it's legal, and it's a totally different game, and I don't want to be a part of it.
Hey, Coach, let me ask you this. Do you believe in paying players? In your opinion, like back in the day, did you believe in paying players?
We couldn't, but back in the day, we didn't pay players. I didn't think you go out and offer an inducement to get a kid to come to your school. I told them they had the opportunities to win national championships. I was surrounded with enough good players. They win the Heismans and Lombardis and things like that, and we'll go to bowl games, which we did. But if a kid got in trouble and needed help, I'm going to help him. I didn't give a damn what the NCAA rules were. When I needed to get a kid home for a funeral or whatever, I'm going to do that. But the NCAA didn't allow that. But most coaches did. I hope the hell they did, because that's what I did. But it never bothered me. They didn't lose any sleep over it. But as far as offering an inducement to players, we didn't do that. Oklahoma didn't do that. Certain schools did, but they were just trying to get to a position where they think they could win.
So, Coach, for you, if a kid needed food to eat, or if he needed to get home to see a parent who had passed away or something, you had no problem doing this. Hey, kid, I'm going to help you there, because, again, that's just something not being a coach, like just being a decent human being and being a guy that's going to help his kids. I mean, you believed in that, right?
Dan, when I recruited a kid, I'd tell their parents, you let your son come be a part of my family, I'll treat him like he's one of my own. And that's what I did. I made sure, the example you gave, that kid would be taken care of. And I'll let that mom and dad know that. But as far as giving them asking for something, having their hand out, nah, I'm not going to give them a damn thing. Got to look at them and tell them, you see these guys sitting behind me? That's Billy Sims who won the Heisman. He didn't get a damn nickel or dime or quarter to come to school here, and you're asking me to give you something you had never covered a damn kickoff or brought one back, and you want something to come to Oklahoma, get your ass up out of here. Go to that other school, we'll kick your ass every year. And but I had to run kids off like that. But then they ended up crying at 2 o'clock in the morning. They called me back and they said they made a mistake. They wanted to come. They thought they were supposed to do that. They had the wrong information from people telling things to do and ask for. But I've had those experiences. But kids came to Oklahoma because we were winning and we had great championships. You know that. Same thing at Miami. You all had great talent, great players there. And we had great programs. But it's different today. Don't want to be a part of it.
You know, Coach, I got to tell you, too, those Oklahoma teams that you had, do you like where the OU program is today? Coach, do you like where the OU program is today? Coach, are you there with us? Do you like where the Oklahoma program is today? Yeah, I think we're going to have to get reconnected here with him. But some of the great battles that we had there with Oklahoma, make no mistake about it, they were fabulous games back in the day here, too. We're going to try to see if we can reconnect here with Coach Switzer here, and hopefully we can connect with him because I like to get his thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys. I like to get his thoughts on him playing on Sundays and him going from being that legendary coach when he was at OU, and he ended up going to the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, look, our great battles, one of the cool things that I had with Coach was that I was one of the few guys, and I kept this here, and he sent this, as I showed you guys, he sent this thing to me here, and Coach Switzer recruited me, and I was one of only 3 guys back in the day from the New England area that he recruited. And because Coach doesn't think Yankees play football. And we played against them. And get this, in the 3 years that we played against Oklahoma, Jimmy Johnson's Miami Hurricanes against the OU teams, they were 33-3. And all 3 losses were to us. So, I mean, they were great rivalries, though. And he had given me a scholarship. I thought I was going to go become a Sooner there. And my friends like Tony Casillas and all those guys, years later, years removed, we became really outstanding friends. But those games were awesome. We went into Norman one year, and we broke Troy Aikman's leg. We ended up beating them there in Norman, and then they came down to Miami, which is one of still the most televised college football regular season games of all time. And those just rivalries were so great. Those Big 8 and the Big 8 Conference at one time back in the day. I would put the Big 8 Conference at Coach Switzer when Nebraska was at its height. Also, those great rivalries between Oklahoma and Nebraska. That's some of the things that we miss out today, and no question about it. College football is now run by networks, and the network television people end up running them. Hopefully, we get a chance to catch up more with Coach Switzer. We'll do that next, right here on Sports Grid.
I know you didn't. Talk!
I'm innocent. Got the wrong guy. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Okay, it was me. I did it.
Bringing an owl to an interrogation? That's a power move.
Every time.
Yeah. Hiring America's largest injury law firm for your injury? That's also a power move. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Everybody has to develop, you know that. Think about Joe Burrow, okay? The beginning of his senior year, he was projected a 6th round draft pick, okay? And that's after playing a year at LSU. So Arch still has some developing to do, but he does have the potential to be a great player.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo. Only on Sports Grid.
This is not a probability market. This is an information narrative market, which, by the way, there are already people who know the answer to this question. So yes. You are not, you're not battling getting the right price. This is not math. This is who the hell knows where Taylor Swift might get. Yeah. You know who knows? Taylor Swift's people.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on Sports Grid.
I love these tournaments. I love the Olympics. I love NFL drafts. I love, events. I love, the UFL, arena football.
Yeah.
Dude, the sports books don't have algorithm computers for this, Kevin. They don't freaking know. How the hell is a sports book supposed to set a number for this? They didn't. Yeah. Dude, the FanDuel had USA at -5.5.
Game time decisions. Only on Sports Grid.
I really wish I could pull out my crystal ball and predict accurately the future and, put money on it and see if I could win. But I think the answer of where we're heading is more uncertainty, and in the short term, more companies, like you mentioned, trying to capitalize on that. When prediction markets first kind of took off this past year, there was a little bit of a hesitancy from sports books.
Newswire. Only on Sports Grid.
obviously one of the greatest coaches of all time. We're hoping to catch up again with another segment here with Coach Barry Switzer here. And I got to tell you, I was in Dallas at the time when that transformation took place, when Jerry Jones ended up taking over the Dallas Cowboys. I had been brought in by Coach Tom Landry and Gil Brandt. And all of a sudden I get a phone call, and I get a call from Jimmy Johnson. And Jimmy had told me that he was in Dallas. And all of a sudden, there he was. He became the next head football coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And he would go on a 5-year run that would change the National Football League and how they do business when it comes to trades. Jimmy made over 50 trades in his 5 years there in Dallas. And he built that Cowboy dynasty into seeing what they had when it would go on to win 3 championships inside of 4 years. All the moves that he made, he brought the entire University of Miami coaching staff into Valley Ranch. Those guys would go on, they would evaluate talent, and make no mistake about it, it was one of the absolutely greatest runs and greatest dynasties of all time. Unfortunately, it only lasted 5 years, unlike what we saw in New England, that almost lasted 20 years. Now, here's what I say about Jerry Jones. With all the things and all the players and all the people that he's replaced, who is the one person that Jerry Jones has not been able to replace? That one guy, obviously, has been Jimmy Johnson. You replace the quarterbacks. You replace the running backs like Emmitt Smith. You replace the wide receivers like Michael Irvin. The one thing that Jerry, in all these years, he's not been able to replace has been Jimmy Johnson. You see other general managers have been able to rebuild teams. Look at what you see with Schneider up in Seattle. He goes from the Russell Wilson era with Pete Carroll into the brand new regime that they have right now. They go on and win a championship with completely a different roster. You've seen in Philadelphia what Howie Roseman did. The 2017 Philadelphia Eagles would win a Super Bowl with 2 different quarterbacks, with Nick Foles and also with Carson Wentz, and also with Doug Peterson. Then you see what they ended up doing just 2 years ago. They ended up winning another Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts in an entirely different roster. Those are truly great general managers that know how to retool and rebuild. Jerry Jones has not been able to, in 30-plus years, ever to duplicate what he did in his early run when he had Jimmy Johnson. I saw that Netflix series that they had, and what Jerry likes to do now is he likes to revamp history. He had nothing to do with the Charles Haley sign. Charles Haley was a troubled player with the San Francisco 49ers, okay? And George Seifert was the head coach at the time. Carmen Policy was the general manager. He just did not want to play in San Francisco any longer. So what did they think they were going to do? They thought they would send him to the worst franchise in all of pro football at the time, which was the Dallas Cowboys, who were coming off a 1-15 season. So they sent him to Dallas. Jimmy goes, I'll take him. Jimmy Johnson brings him in. It was the final linchpin that would go on and help them win 3 Super Bowls in Dallas. Jerry Jones didn't pull that off. A guy named Bob Ackles and Jimmy Johnson. The whole Herschel Walker deal. There was a legendary run that my coach used to go on all the time, and they would do their noon run. How they came up with trading Herschel Walker in that legendary trade, they would go on their run. He looks over at Dave Wannstedt and says, hey, I'm going to trade Herschel Walker. Cleveland had a deal on the table at the time, and Jimmy was going to pull the trigger on it. Well, guess what they did at the end of the day? Minnesota came parachuting in, wanted to give up all those draft picks, and Jimmy went with the Minnesota Vikings. The irony in that deal was this. When Jimmy was building that team, he never used one player from that Minnesota Vikings deal with Herschel Walker. Not one of those players ever played it down in Dallas. Jimmy wanted the picks. Every single player, they all turned into picks back in the day. And that's what revamped that Dallas Cowboy dynasty. Jimmy wasn't going to sit around and wait like the old school teams would do and build through the draft and rarely use free agency. Do you understand that Coach Johnson at the time, when he was doing that, that was something that teams did not do. They didn't do all these tradings. How about this? The 50-plus trades that he made in Dallas was more combined than the entire league during that 5-year run, no teams, all the other teams had combined, not as pulled off as many trades as what Jimmy Johnson did back in the day. He drafted great. He signed free agents. He plugged holes with free agency, and he built that team in 5 years. The unfortunate thing is that Jerry Jones at the time, and I wish Barry could have told the story here, but when he was initially interviewed for the job to take over for Jimmy Johnson, he walks into the room and he looks at Jerry Jones and says, "How can you two guys F this thing up so bad?" And he goes, "Where's Jimmy?" Barry went there because you got to remember, Barry coached both Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson at Arkansas when he was the assistant coach there for Frank Broyles. So he knew both guys. How could you guys screw this thing up so bad? And where's Jimmy? And Jerry Jones goes, "Barry's gone. Do you want the job? Yes or no?" And Barry Switzer went on to coach the team, and he would go on to win himself a Super Bowl. Look, it was a very controversial time there in Dallas with Barry Switzer. Everyone knows how he left Oklahoma. Truly one of the greatest coaches of all time. And he would go on to become one of just a few coaches to win national championships and also a Super Bowl as a coach. So again, one of the truly greatest times and one of the truly greatest coaches of all time. I'll say it again to you, and what I love about this guy right here, okay? This guy coached college football the way it should be coached. The kid needed help. As you heard him say, he had no problem pulling money out of his wallet back in the day. It cost him 2 national championships. One of my favorite players and one of my favorite people, God rest his soul, of all time, Leroy Selman, was truly just one of the greatest people I know. Says he is without a doubt one of the greatest coaches that he's ever, one of the greatest men that he's ever been around. So kudos to Coach. We appreciate him joining us and giving us just a little bit of time. There's no doubt his players revere him too. They revere him to this day because he took care of them. And that's the kind of coach he was at Oklahoma. Man, do we miss those kind of guys. Those character guys who were smoking cigarettes on the sidelines and were doing all kinds of things there. And we really appreciate that very much, man. It was just an absolutely pleasure just to be in college football at that time. Sileo says we'll do it next right here on Sports Grid. All right, Coach Switzer sends his apologies on the previous segment, but we'll get him again. Absolutely one of the greatest coaches of all time. Sileo says now, for the last 2 years, the United States women's soccer team has been lecturing us on what's wrong with our country. Now, listen, before I continue with this, I am going to tell you here, without a doubt, I want to tell you this. This is not an endorsement in any way, shape, or form for a political figure in our country. That's not what this show is about. I don't tell you how to use COVID, and I don't tell you who to vote for in this country. That's not this show's job, and that's not my job. Because personally, I believe in the politics of big sills. I don't believe really in any party right now. This is what I believe in. However, I heard the United States women's soccer team lecturing us for 2 years on how bad our country is and how bad the president of the United States, Donald Trump, is and how bad this country is. Well, we have a situation going on with the upcoming World Cup. We have a situation coming up with a team that's now being held hostage by the Iranian government. Now the national Iranian team has been told that they can play in the United States in the World Cup, but again, that their government has told them that they can't because of what the president has done with the attacking of Iran. Also, the United States is now looking at a situation where the U.S. women's soccer team has been silent on this issue. Well, the Iranian women are being held captive right now, and they are scheduled for execution because they spoke out against their government and they spoke out against the tyranny of their government. My question to you would be, where's the U.S. women's team in supporting them for them speaking out? The same thing that the Iranian women are doing, that the United States women's soccer team did, they're scheduled for execution. They are scheduled and held because of their opinions against their country. I know America is not perfect, but for 2 years I was lectured how bad this country is. And I don't see one of those women supporting the Iranian women who are being held and being scheduled for execution. Hey, Megan Rapinoe, I get it. You want to tell us how bad the United States is each and every single day. I think one of the coolest things in our country is that she gets to do that. And I have no problem with that. If you don't like who's in the White House, you get to do two things. You get to protest and you get to vote every 4 years. That's what makes America great. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. But the same thing that Megan Rapinoe and the U.S. women's soccer team did 2 years in a row, lecturing us how bad our country is, the Iranian women are being held because of their opinions against their government. You tell me, at the end of the day, listen, I said it before and I'll say it again. This country is not perfect. And what I love the most about the country is that you get to protest, that you get to not like. If you are in a disagreement with the president of the United States, look, this isn't a PSA for Trump. This is a PSA for our country and the rights that we have in our country to be able to talk. And me being able to talk like this and me having an opinion, that's the greatest thing in our country is freedom of speech. Hey, you don't have to like the guy in the White House. You don't have to go to the White House. I'm not telling you or making you go to the White House. But don't sit there and lecture me for 2 years. I'm telling me and trying to convince people that this country is the worst place on the planet when you got the same exact scenario playing itself out in Iran right now with women who need your support. I support the Iranian men who want to play in the World Cup, and I support the Iranian women who are fighting for their lives now. I mean, where is American athletes? Is it just so you don't want to support those women over in Iran because that would mean that you're supporting Trump? Think about that. Your hatred for the president of the United States precludes you from helping and rooting for those Iranian women. Hey, Megan, they need your support too. They need your support right now because they're speaking out against their government. The same privileges that you have on speaking out against your government. And by the way, Megan, I support you in speaking out. I do. You have every right in this country not to like what's going on. But those Iranian women could also use your help right now as they're fighting for their lives. 2 years of hearing that. And silence. Silence. In the support of the men and the women Iranian soccer teams. Hey, look, I don't profess to be some soccer expert, but I know this. Do the right thing. All right, hour number 2.